Yeah, yeah. Get down.
You don't wanna see me in the street.
Get down.
Packing word instead of packing heat. I'm a soldier. Hey, soldier. Hey, soldier. Find me
Welcome
on the
to Set Free
battlefield.
Journeys, the lifestyles of the rich and famous. No. Welcome to the lifestyles of the saved and dangerous. Don't be messing with me. This is the Chief, Dr. Phil, the real Dr. Phil, with my co-partner in crime,
Sunday. Hi, everyone.
Sunday Casperson. We've been telling Sunday's story here together. I've been digging in to get a little gold nuggets from her and talking about her life. And wow, what a saved and dangerous life Sunday has lived. And just a little refresher course that I remembered is she grew up, started in Hawaii, then moved to San Diego with her dad. Her dad turns out to be a convict, locked up all the time. She goes back over to Hawaii, then she joins she's kicked out of everything. She's in trouble all the time. Then she joins the army and somehow gets booted out of the army, but she gets booted out with some kind of honorable this because she was tricking officers, and she's just one scandalous young lady, I'm telling you. And then of all things, she heads to Las Vegas. I mean, what's a young, pretty girl doing in Las Vegas? Well, she does what a lot of young, crazy young girls do in Las Vegas. Got herself in a jam there. Next thing you know, she gets pregnant in Las Vegas, and that starts her whole mission going back to Hawaii to start having children.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Sunday take it away from here. She's back there in Hawaii. She's pregnant. She's got family there. Her dad's locked up somewhere. Something's going on in her life. So Sunday, if you would please, and what an honor it is to hear your beautiful story about life.
Thank you. I love you. So from what I remember, right, so we're at about 21, 22, maybe at the max 23 years old. And I'm pregnant with Kingston. Kingston's my first blood. And during that time, I was really trying to navigate, because I'm at home, I'm in the country, it's a very rural, small town that we're from. So everybody knows everybody's business. Everyone knows I left with a girlfriend, came home with the belly. And so, there's that. And then I'm going through this experience of, so I was given an option, right? Go ahead and get an abortion and figure all of that out and come back to daddy a size 1 and we'll stay happily married. Or go on with your life and figure it out yourself. Here's some money, go on your special way, right? And so at that time, Julian was like, come back to me a size 1, the way that I'm used to you looking, because I'm that trophy
And that's
wife,
your
right?
husband?
Husband at the time, yes.
Okay, husband at the time. And just so...
Only husband so far.
Just so listeners get the whole picture, when I think of Hawaii, I'm thinking about waves there and beaches and all that
Brown,
kind of
sandy
stuff.
beaches, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But where you're from is like
Nothing.
country.
Yes, yeah. I'm from the country. So Kilkaha native, right? Raised in or in the rainforest side of Hilo, more towards Ke'au, Mountain View, Kilkaha area. And so we live in the rainforest. It's my grandma used to say, it wakes up every morning, the rain washes your sins away, gives you time to go slow. You have time to drink your coffee, read your newspaper. A majority of the homes there are sustainable. So I grew up with water catchment that catches the rainwater to filter through the house, right? I grew up on propane tanks and generators and all of this other stuff because the homes are sustainable. They're not, you're not on a power grid. You're not in county water. It's none of that stuff.
So you're leaving Las Vegas to come back to that. You've been in the army. You've been in jail. You've been all those things. But you've always talked your way out of having a prison record.
Yeah.
You've talked your way out of... some being locked up for some formal way, you seem to always get your way out of that. But now you're pregnant, but you have to make a choice to keep that child or come back here and go ahead.
And so I pray about it, think about it, figure it out, go through whatever I need to, scream about it, cry around it, right? Because I don't know how to be a mom. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And then I believe it was that night or the next morning, I felt Kingston kick for the first time. And once I felt the baby move, it was a wrap for me. And then that produced my next addiction, right? Because I'm always I've always been told I was too smart for my own good, right? And so what has been explained to me by friends that love me is, so I see how your personality is, right? Like you figure out a system and you want to put it in a system and then you want to play out that system. So then you want to master it and manipulate it, right? That's what I do. I figure out systems, I master them, I manipulate them. And my brother explained that to me and it made a lot of sense. It really does for me. And so I then had to figure out the system of being a mother, right? So I managed to go through my pregnancy, give birth to Kingston naturally, because again, I'm figuring out a system and I want to be the boss of that system. So I'm going to make sure that I go through all my breathing classes. I'm going to give birth in the ocean. I'm going to make sure I do everything completely natural. No chemicals, no epidurals, no, none of that stuff.
Wow, okay.
And Kingston came out big. He was 10 pounds, right? So I did all of this naturally. But then again, was still learning a system of being a mother, right? And so Kingston breastfed for the year, did everything that it said to do in the books and all of that stuff, because I'm out in a small town. There's not much to do but learn. And I've always been a lover of learning, right? And so I'm learning motherhood and I'm learning all of this stuff. You breastfeed the baby, how to bathe them when their belly button comes off, all of this stuff. And I, shortly after that 1 year of breastfeeding Kingston, end up pregnant with Keone. Breastfeed that year with Keone, end up pregnant with Sensi. So I just continued until I had figured out that process. You know, I needed to understand it. I'm a very logical mind with an emotional, I'm still a woman, so I'm pretty emotional, right? And so going through the mind process, I needed to understand the steps and I needed a couple of chances to work out the kinks so that I could get it right.
So how many children did you end up having?
I birthed 3 children. Today I have 6 children.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you birthed 3 children.
I did.
You started getting the routine down, what you got to do.
Yeah.
And how was family life for you guys? What kind of mother were you?
Honestly, I believe I was a pretty good mother until drugs and alcohol got in the way. So I had these protective factors. Again, there's always things that save me from the consequences of my own actions, right? There's always something that I can recognize as God now, right? But I didn't recognize before, that always came in right at the 11th hour and like swooped me out of whatever I was getting myself into. And so Kingston, that was about a 2-year process, the pregnancy and then the breastfeeding, and then Keone and then Sensi. So at this time I go back to college, I start getting my education, I'm going to become a park ranger, I'm going to work in the national forest. And my greatest thinking, like I should have known I was an alcoholic back then, but I didn't get it. My greatest thinking was I was going to join the forest team, I was going to become a park ranger. I was going to get to wear a badge and a gun. They were going to give me a section of the national forest. Because again, we live in the rainforest. There's lots of opportunities to work as a park ranger in the native forests. So I memorized all the plants. I learned all of the plant medicine. I started studying with people who were doing traditional plant medicine. I'm going to college. I'm having these babies. About 7 years goes by and I enter again, right? Because after my daughter, she's a year old now, I got to wing her off the chichi because that's what good moms do, right? And now there's nothing protecting me from the drugs and alcohol, which had always been my comfort, right? And so the babies are going to school, all of the stuff is going great.
You
and
got a little you time now.
left to my own devices,
Ooh,
Sunday
okay.
will mess up things in an amazingly way. Amazingly, that's not even a word, but in an amazingly profound way, right? And so I start a roller derby team at this time. I'm a part of about 14, 15 girls. I had just given birth to my daughter. And during that first year, we're writing vision statements and bylaws and all of that stuff. But we plan a year in advance to have our first bout, is what it's called, which is a race or a competition between 2 roller derby teams. And so in that, we plan this specific day. We notify the newspapers. We're going to have our first game. They do like this story on me and my grandma because my grandma played roller derby back in the 50s and now it's being revitalized. So we make this huge event out of a roller derby game. And around that time, the movie Whip It came out, which is a roller derby movie.
Right.
So we almost immediately, within that time that we had our first game, the first, I want to say 6 months at the most, we went from 16 girls that were on a team to 5 teams, an entire league, and now we're registering nationally with WFTA, which is Women's Flat Track Derby Association.
Okay, so you got a full team, full league going on here.
Yeah. And again, left to my own devices, I'm not breastfeeding. So we were developing this, and we have to make bylaws and stuff like this. So in that, we made it mandatory for you to go to the after parties, which were always at bars, right? We made it mandatory for you to accept the drinks because you want your fans to feel like they have that personal moment with you so that they come to the rest of your game. I remember when I had that shot with Sunday, I'm going to go see Sunday, Bloody Sunday one more time.
Okay,
you know?
yeah, okay.
So then roller derby took my life for about 3 years after I had my daughter, until I was completely blackout drunk all the time, and I got put on suspension from my own team.
Woo, and you're still going to school.
And I'm still going to school. And then so I'm on timeout. I'm on suspension from the team. I go to college. I'm in year 7. It's 8 years for me to get the degree and be able to hold a firearm and do all of this stuff, because again, my adolescent record was sealed. My military record was sealed. So I look like I'm free and clear. I don't have any strikes. I don't have any problems.
Oh, you've done it so far. You moved along, and even though you were a party animal, you still were able to do great in your schooling, your educational part.
For sure. Slowly but surely. Year 7, I had chipped away too much, and I'm starting to fail my classes. I also get into an accident in a bout that we're in, and I crushed my back. I'm given these Roxys and Oxys and Opanas, and now I'm in pain management and with doctors and with pills. And so this is a whole new drug game for me. And within, I think, probably a month of having these blue pills, I learned how to smoke them. I learned how to shoot them up. And drugs and alcohol turned into drugs and alcohol for me.
About how old were you right at this time?
I'm going to say I'm about 26 at this time, 27 at the latest.
And you want to be a park ranger, it's going to be a good gig for you, all that kind of stuff's happening. You made it through in school, you've got your kids, they're all coming along good, all that kind of stuff happening.
Got derby, I'm on timeout, but I'm still a part of the league. I'm still going to the meetings, I'm still doing the things, right? And I have this really full life, but that's my favorite thing to do, is to build this really beautiful full life and then tear it all down because of my fears of success. My original fears that I'm not enough, I don't deserve it.
I think you're pushing a button that a lot of us can feel. I think, when you talk about, I've just been speaking to people all about being an F-up is so much easier to handle. No experience, no prerequisites or anything like that. But being a success story, and people start telling you, man, you're really good at just even handling those kind of compliments,
Awkward, right?
Yeah, very awkward. Yeah, definitely. So, go ahead, continue on.
Yeah, so I get to year 7, and I catch my first strike in Hilo, Hawaii, because now we go to this after party, somebody doesn't act right, Sunday's carrying a pistol, there's all kinds of silliness that happens, and I catch a charge. I'm going to do 18 months at this charge because I have an attorney. I'm married into money. We pleaded down. All of this good stuff happened. So again, I'm skating under the massiveness of what is actually happening, like full flight from reality, right? So first off, I'm going to grow up and be a park ranger so that I can have this transect in the national forest where my brothers and my baby's dad can grow weed. I can protect them because I'm in charge
you're
of watching
already
it,
manipulating,
right?
And you're scheming and
figuring
plotting
out systems to manipulate them, right? And then I get to roller derby, and I'm on timeout, but I'm still going to be a participant. You guys can't stop me.
Because you're like a party girl athlete.
Yes.
It's kind of almost acceptable in a lot of ways. And Sunday, partying with her and stuff like that. Okay, so you're getting to have your cake and eat it too once again. You're able to, make this look good, but you've got your underlying fingerprints of some scandalous...
no respect for authority, no self-reflection, severe lack of self-discipline, like balls to the walls, and I will figure it out when I smash my face into the concrete.
Just us doing this program right now, I'm thinking about birds of a feather.
Oh, huh.
You know what I mean? And I'm going, you're making me realize that, wow, this is something else. Go ahead, continue on.
So I end up getting busted. I get locked up for a little while, and this is the first time I get separated from my children. Kingston is probably 6 years old, so Keoni's probably 3 or 4 years old. Sensi just got off the Chi-Chi, so she's like a year and a half old. And that's when I realized, like, oh, we're going to have a problem, because I skated under the 10 years, and I had to do 18 months. So this is the third time I'm locked up. I have to do 18 months. My babies are little. I'm doing state time, so I'm doing like 60%. I'm probably going to do a year. I ended up doing 13
And your
months.
mom, where's she in this time?
My mother and my grandmother, being the wonderful country women that they are at home watching all of my kids. All of my children. So I get out, good behavior, because again, I know systems, right? And I know jail and I know prison and I know how to do that. So I'm an exemplary inmate and I show up to the classes and I do the papers and I do everything that they want me to do because I know that that's going to shorten my time.
You're rising to the occasion again.
Right,
you know?
right. One more time, institutionalized already. And so I get out at like 13 months and they put me in BISAC. And so I'm going to treatment. And this is where the treatment runs start, right? I'm about 26 years old and I have been, by the time I was 30 and came to you, I had been to over 28 treatment centers in Hawaii, in Canada, all over the place. Like my mom tried taking me out of the country. She signed every single place I could go to on the Big Island. The ones I could go to multiple times, I went to multiple times. I couldn't kick the pills. That was more difficult.
Pills were opiates?
Yeah, opiates and pharmaceuticals. I was doing liquid morphine. I had Opanas. I had Oxys. I had Roxys. And I still smoked weed on a regular basis. And whenever I felt like it and went out, I would drink on occasion because alcohol was never my problem, right? And so I would go back and forth between, again, that victim and self-righteous. Like, this is what they did to me, so I can do what the fuck I want, you know? And, like, just would act a fool with no regard for anyone else, no regard for no want for any kind of discipline at all. You know, it wasn't until I get here and I start learning, like, fruits of the spirit, stuff like that, and what
Okay, so all this happened there. Mm-hmm. And then what came to that last point to where they sent you off that island, you know?
Yeah, so my mom had already taken my kids. So my mom comes over one morning and I'm living in a 2-story at this time because again, they want nothing to do with me. No one wants anything. They're scared to even come around because he would come around every once in a while and try to like get groceries for the house or be present. If it was Oli, who's my baby's dad, we would physically fight. If it was Julian, it was always, I'm going to rob you. Or Stuart, I would always rob them. So they didn't want to come around. I've stolen their trucks. I've stolen business bank accounts, credit cards, like just everything that wasn't glued down, you know, right. I would take from anyone that came around because I was like this black hole just sucking everything out of everybody. And so I remember being upstairs and laying in bed and just hearing, that's fucking it, Sunday. I can't do this anymore. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I sit up in my bed and I look at my mom. She's standing in front of me and I have this beautiful big wooden posts on my bed, huge bedroom. Like I'm still a spoiled princess, right? And so she's standing with my baby, my daughter on her hip. And she's like, do you know what my granddaughter just told me? And I'm like, why are you coming in my house yelling? Like, why? This is not how you wake somebody up, you know?
You're talking to your mother?
Talking to my mother. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you, Sulan? By this point, I'm calling her first name because I'm angry because she woke me up, right? And so she's going,
she's just some character.
Yeah. And she's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch this. Do you know what I walked into? And I was like, what? So I look and there's needles around me. There's blood dripping all down my arm. Apparently my daughter was asleep. I grabbed a rig from the cabinet, shot myself up and passed out. My daughter, not even 3 years old, gets to the edge of the bed because she hears my mom coming up the stairs and is saying, no, Yaya, no. Pokey, owie, like telling my mom, stay away from the bed, you're gonna get poked, and is showing her like my daughter's been poked by needles and everything that I left around because I'm just that irresponsible.
Yeah, I'm getting a picture in my mind, kind of that TV show Intervention.
Yeah.
You know, where that person who you are now is not that person who you were then.
Yeah.
But you just taking it to the limit. You got a mom, you know,
she can't kick me out of my house, you know, it's my house. And so she had nothing else to do. She took the kids away. That was the day she took the younger one, my daughter. My sons were already taken by her. She had already adopted out with Kingston. Like I had already lost rights to my older ones, but this was the baby. And so I guess in their way of trying to protect me, they let me keep my daughter so I didn't completely lose my mind.
Yeah.
And so that was the day that she grabbed my daughter. She goes downstairs. She disappears for a little while. Of course, I'm angry at this point because don't you know who the fuck I am, right? And so I come downstairs with all my entitlement. And I'm like, how dare you? Like, I have a party next week. You're not taking her. It's our birthday. So my daughter and me are 2 weeks apart. My two sons are 2 weeks apart. So I always threw these really extravagant birthday parties for me and my daughter. And so I had hired bands. It's going to be a block party, like all of this stuff, because money was at my disposal for a long time. Lots of money floating around all the time. I gave birth to babies to the right people.
Just bad things.
Just all bad, right? I had never been more lonely or more miserable than when I sat there with a bed full of money and realized I had nobody to share with. No friends. Nobody gave a fuck. Nobody coming, you know? And so I'm screaming at my mother while she's on the phone, holding my daughter who's crying at this time because she knows I'm upset. And I'm going, and I have a block party and this is happening and don't you know, right? And then she goes, yeah, hold on, here she is. And she hands the phone over to me. And I was like, hello? And I heard my dad's voice for the first time in probably 25 years. And I hadn't had any contact with him other than the once in a while pictures when I was like 16 or 20 or 25, you know? But I recognized the voice. The little girl in me recognized the voice of safety from when I was a little girl, you know, and I just shrunk right then and there. And I heard, hi, baby. And I was like, hi, daddy.
How old are you again?
I'm 29 at this time.
29 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, you hear your daddy's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is just a
shit
wreck.
show.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, when people talk about that first step and the 12 steps, life became unmanageable.
Yeah.
I go, life becoming unmanageable sounds good.
Yeah.
Compared to where you're at, and you're just, you're an addict.
Lost my kids, full addiction, lost the derby team, lost my purpose, can't finish school, lost the dream that I had been going to school for. I'm walking around with no purpose, nothing coming, and too much money.
Well, like I said, I've been doing this the last 40 years. Set Free Worldwide Ministries was birthed in 1982. I have taken in thousands, if not over 100,000 men, women, young people, and heard their stories. And not to compare one more than another, but you are one of the most former scandalous gangster of a woman that I have ever, been associated with.
Yeah.
And just even so much more the miracle, the lifestyles of the saved and dangerous. You've made it through all that you're going through. Then you hear your daddy's voice.
Yeah.
And I'm always believing that God has a plan for our life.
Yeah.
And no matter what we're going through, if we're still alive, that there's a purpose for us being here. So here you are, you hear your daddy's voice. What happened next?
He says, I want you to come visit me in California. And I was like, okay.
And you didn't know that had your mother talked to him?
My mom hadn't talked to him in over 30 years. So what I got to find out later on, right? My mom went downstairs and she was in contact with my Auntie Sherry, my dad's sister. Called my Auntie Sherry and she said, well, I asked you if you wanted his number. She said, no, I need it now. And then called my dad and all the stars align, right? Just so happens he has a phone that's working. He's in a sober living, whatever's happening. And he answers his phone in that moment. And she says, I don't know what to do. And my dad tells me, like, when she called me and said it's about your daughter, I thought you were dead. I had only heard stories about what had happened to you, and I thought she was calling to tell me to come to your funeral.
Ooh, no matter what kind of dad you are, it's your daughter, you know, it's your child, you still are a human being, and God is reaching down there and touching your heart. So your dad gets on the phone with you? Yeah,
and he says, you come to California? And I don't know what came over. There was no talking back. There was none of it. I was like, hi, Daddy. And he said, come. And I said, yeah. And he said, you come tomorrow? I said, okay. And he said, I love you. I'll see you soon. I said, I love you too. And I gave her back the phone.
Wow.
And I was like, good game, Sulan. You won that one. And I went upstairs and I packed my shit and that was the end. That was the end of my life in Hawaii.
You were ready for the next step.
Yeah.
And the
I was
journey.
done. Realistically, like, I hated myself. I couldn't look in the mirror at that point. Like, it was just darkness in my eyes. Like, I look back at some of the last couple of years and I'm like walking death. Like, I can see it. But to remember what it felt like was a whole different thing.
Yeah, and many of you tuned in can relate to that, because in my own way, like I says, when they locked me away, I fought not to be locked away. I fought it, bail me out, Mom, everything I could to avoid going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
But once I knew I was locked away and sentenced, and the key turned and they threw away the key, I was happy.
I was at peace.
Yeah,
I was
like,
finally able to breathe
yeah.
again, because I wasn't in charge of me. I just burned me down every time.
Okay, and so here we go. You come to California.
Yeah.
And I know your dad.
Yeah.
Because I'd worked with your dad. Your dad rode with my motorcycle club.
Yeah.
And he had been arrested with us, and we were good friends and all that kind of stuff. And just a little quick brief thing. What happens when you move to his house?
Well, I landed June 11th, 2012. And I think it was June 14th, 2012, we came to see you for the first time. Because my dad loved me, but he was brand new in his recovery too. He's still in sober living. I can't live there. All of this other stuff. He's married to Blancs at the time, And so I believe that he had been around you for over 20 years and just called you and was like, look, I need help. I don't even know what to do with her. I haven't had her since she was 9. Like, what am I supposed to do? And you said, shoot it, And I came over to your house and you said, young lady, are you ready? And I remember lying straight to your face and thinking, I am ready. I said, I am ready. Absolutely, sir. And knew that I had no plan on doing anything other than figuring out what you guys were doing and how you were doing it. Because everyone over here looked like they had a great life. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And
for
so
sure.
then you moved in one of your many times.
Mm-hmm.
And
this was Palmyra House at the time. It was orange and yellow and the white picket fence. And I was like, oh, we're doing good over here, right? Because I'm still in this very materialistic, ego-driven, very young mindset, right? And so I had the big, beautiful house in Hawaii, but there was nothing inside of it. I sold anything worth anything. And I come to this house and Kat was the house manager and we're at Palmyra House. And I very quickly noticed that Kat is messing with somebody. So then I tell her, okay, well, you got to let me sneak out at night. And she's letting me sneak out at night. And I get myself in trouble and kicked out of that house real quick, But I think it was...
So you bring all your nasty habits along with you.
Everywhere I go. Yeah, everywhere I go, I took me with me. Everywhere I go, it was figure it out, see what they're doing, do what you need to, because I'm institutionalized, right? And that's what I get to learn, that is a learned behavior that I had spent all the way from the first time I got locked up learning. Whenever I'm in front of my mom, I speak a certain way, I sit a certain way. Whenever I'm in front of my grandmother, I speak a certain way, I sit a certain way. Whenever I'm institutionalized, you behave, you raise your hand, you sit in the front of the class, all of the things that people want to see, right? You put that on for them so that they can see that, so that they look at that and they never take a deeper look into how broken you are.
And I'll hear a lot of people say, I'm not going to do that for anybody like that. But then there's the other type of professional, what I call them, professional hoodlum,
Yeah.
that, yes ma'am, yes sir.
Absolutely, and with grace.
Yeah, exactly. So you went there and then you got booted out there and you just kind of went like a lot of people go from program to program, kind of what was your history before.
Yeah.
And you and your dad, I guess, how was it going with you and your dad during this time? What kind of things did he say to you?
I got kicked out of your house. I got kicked out of Wood Glen. I got kicked out of Cooper Fellowship. I got kicked out of the Rock Center. Like, at this point in time, I've done the whole circuit in low bottom indigent Orange County recovery programs, right? And little did I know that there was this divine plan that I was going to get to be someone that was going to have all of these resources, because I've been to all of these places, right? Like, I never
noticed that I was in rehab with them, I was in recovery with them, I
locked
did that
up with them, lived under a bridge with her, right?
Exactly, and it's a very small world.
Yeah.
And so you were going through that, and I guess like I said, I can remember like yesterday, one of the new rehabs that I got there in Simi Valley.
Yes.
And I put you and a couple of people in charge of keeping an eye on it for me. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, is the door's broken down, everybody's high on cocaine.
And I'm on a plane to Hawaii.
You know,
Because I don't want to be there to get busted. I just want to be there to do the damage and manipulate whatever is going on, make a big whatever I wanted to happen, get what I wanted from the situation. It was the come up and the get out, you know, and that was my MO.
So here we go. What did you spend about 2-3 years? Was it just kind of bouncing around before you actually, I don't know if the word stop using and abusing?
So about 2.5 years, I'm running around Orange County. At this point, I get my dad to relapse with me because he has to come find me because I'm robbing his friends now and all kinds of other stuff, and he's getting the news of it. So he ends up going back into the gutter to come find me. 2.5 years goes by, and he's like, man, she's going to die if I keep letting this happen. He disappears. And I think it was like a month later, 2 months later, I get busted. So now I'm doing time in California.
Okay, you're doing time over here.
Yeah.
And then you get out and...
June 11th. Funny, right? Like, so June 11th, 2012, I get to California. June 11th, 2016, I get out in California again. And this is when I come to you for Black Sheep Recovery in the Simi Valley house, and Susan is with us at this time.
Okay, and here you're doing better.
Yeah.
At least you're doing better.
Well, and so this is what I know, right? Like in those years, in and out of the rooms, messing around, you're still picking up little bits of things, right? So then I get to jail and I have all this time to think, and I'm like, man, I understand what they're saying when it's like, I won't do it for myself because my self-esteem is shot. You know, I'm full of guilt. I'm full of shame. I think I'm the worst person on the planet, unloved and unlovable. So I don't know how to give love because I don't feel like I deserve any of it. And so I'm remembering how it's like, okay, well, I won't do this for myself, but I'm willing to do it for someone else. And then there's this little blondie girl that's running around the jail, and she's like, being my friend and pouring hot water through the door and telling me things like, the only time I ever was able to be sober was at this place called Broadway Treatment Centers, and it was run by a Pastor Phil Aguilar. And I'm like, okay, I see you, you know, like, I see you. And so I'm like, what are you talking about? I have to go back there, and I don't want to go back there. And I'm talking shit like I do because I know how to talk shit, right? And I get back into my bunk and I'm laying down and I'm like, man, again, I'm being protected. And I think it's the first time it like sank in for me. Like, people are dying out here and locked up and begging to go to a place that you get to go to every time you ask. Yeah. Chief's never said no. You've always let me back. I've taken hostages from every time I've left your house. Someone got dragged down with me, if not the whole house. And you never did anything but be your stable self. And I'd show up and it was one more time. Are you ready to do whatever you need to? And I'm like, absolutely, like you would think, but you never did.
Well, you know, the Bible said that love believes the best, and a lot of times people will question, why do you keep giving people chances? I go, because I'm looking at my own life story.
Yeah.
And God's never given up on me. So you're stuck in there.
Yeah.
That time, and...
well, that time I called, and I actually asked before I got out, can I come back? Okay. It wasn't my dad saying, you're going back. It was me saying, can I go back? So you
had a little oomph from yourself.
From a Susan.
And your partner, Susan, your jailmate friend.
Yeah.
And so the two of you come, and I can remember at Black Sheep Recovery, we were over there together, and we're doing what we do. We gather together, we talk, you know, and try to encourage each other. Yeah. And that began your journey to give us a little update on your journey from there to where you're at today. Yeah,
so at that time I'm on high control parole. So my PO's coming to your house all of the time. We're sitting there at Bible study and they're coming with bulletproof vests and guns drawn because I'm a high risk, right? And they have my whole record, and you're just like, I'm like, they want to look at my room, and you're like, then show them your room, Sunday. It's not that big a deal, you know, like ask them if they want coffee. And I'm learning how to be a host and how to get outside of myself. And I'm picking up all of this stuff. And then after, I think it was like 60 days or something, I have to go back to get custody or to sign over custody of my daughter. And that's when you said the night before I was leaving to Hawaii, okay, go to Simi Valley. And so I go out to Simi Valley, and in my head, it's one last hurrah, right? Because now I'm not under your thumb, which is a protective factor for me. My dad is in Orange County, protective factor for me. Susan, the one I brought to keep me safe because I lack discipline all the way around myself, is now at the house in Orange County. And all there is victim number Brian King, right? Because he's the house manager at that time, and an easy takedown. I couldn't help myself. I didn't have any other skills. I didn't know what else to do. And so we get there, and I convince Brian that he wants to buy me alcohol. And from there, it was all bets are off. Like, I think I blacked out within the first 2 hours. The sun wasn't even down yet. And then I go home for what is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, and call my children God's children and not my children, and sign the rights away because I knew I was in no position to have them. And I think it was the day after I signed the rights to my children away and give up custody, I was walking to the bus stop to go back to my auntie's house, and I felt that incomprehensible demoralization again, because now I don't even have the children that I birthed anymore, and I have no reason for living.
Wow.
And so I found a bridge, made a friend, got some drugs, and lost like 35 pounds in a week, I'm sure, at least. And then missed my flight, had to call Trina and be like, Trina Joy, I missed my flight, but I really need to come back to California. I'm on a different island, right? So I'm from Hilo. Court is in Oahu. And so I'm in Oahu. I don't know anyone else there except my dad's sister, my Auntie Terry. And she's tweaking all the time. So somehow in the midst of it, I end up at her house. I chase my auntie around the forest and hide in a dog kennel because we're all twacked out. And I think she stole something from me, and I don't even remember what it is. But now I'm threatening to beat up my dad's sister. So she calls my dad and says, you need to get her out of here. She's out of control. And the disease never skipped a beat.
That island was not big enough for you to be staying at
not
over
at all.
there. You went back there, you signed your kids away. So if you're feeling low, you're feeling a little lower.
Yeah.
And as you're speaking, I just keep hearing the words of people that know you now.
Yeah.
You know, Auntie, she's the sweetest, she's the kindest. Just this morning in group, new lady that moved in your house, I love her.
Yeah.
She's the best. I mean, we talked earlier that it's not always easy to receive compliments like that.
Yeah.
It takes a while till we start. You've heard me say many times, 99 people can tell you what a great person you are. And that's cool, but that one person tells you what a worthless piece of shit you are, and it seems like we'll listen to that voice.
Yeah, or it'll activate something in that hurt inner child that still lives in us. And that one is so much more powerful because it's from the inside out versus the outside in. It'll activate something inside of a trauma response or some kind of I said that to me before too. You know, and it just lives so much stronger and so much easier for me to get to a place where I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, whatever it is. You know, it seems like that activates so much quicker than I am enough.
Wow, as you're listening to Sunday talking about her lifestyle of the saved and dangerous, we are Set Free Journeys. And I started a ministry called Set Free in 1982. And so we're still doing Set Frees at different places around the world, and we're sharing the love of Jesus with people, but we're doing it a little street style.
Our flavor.
You know, our flavor, you know. And when the Bible says, whosoever will may come, we really mean it. We don't care. Matter of fact, I was thinking on the way here today that I'm the happiest Christian believer that I know.
Yeah.
I'm the wealthiest Christian believer that I know, and I'm the sanest Christian believer that I know. That's just the way it is. A lot of people go, no, you can't be. I is.
Yeah, he is.
And this is just a joy hearing your story, only because I know there's a happy ending coming.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and And we're sharing this because somebody needs to hear this story. Lots of people need to hear this story because on Sunday nights, like our last night at our Sunday night meeting that we do, the place is filled with people in recovery who are just 10 days, 12 days clean. Hearing our girl Brittany, who was on stage with us last night, that young girl.
Sweet girl.
Hearing her story about that she tried to kill herself recently, all this stuff, and I'm going, my gosh, what in the world?
When you remember the night, I think it was me and Bryce went and spoke at Garden Grove Alano Club, and you came that night.
Yeah.
And the officer came up to me. That was that night for me too, right? Like when she's sharing these things, I'm like, wow, you know how you go the me too. I had given my testimony, and as soon as we finished it, that officer came up to me and he was like, hey, do you remember me? And I was like, you're gonna have to remind me, sweetheart. And he's like, from Fullerton. And I'm like, we're going to have to do a little bit more than that. I kind of did some damage in Fullerton, you know?
That's right.
And he was like, I was the officer that found you in Del Taco bathroom. The one that you said, just let you be. And I wouldn't let you be.
I remember that night.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's why it's a mind blower, the whole thing, how God has turned everything around.
Yeah.
In your life, and you know.
And I'm a real thug, right? So I'd never say it, right? I was trying to kill myself, but I knew what I was able to take and what I wasn't, and I did everything that night.
Yeah, I
didn't have
share
a
with
plan.
people. It all sounds cool, but any of us who are addicts, it's slow motion suicide.
It
what
is.
we're working on.
And that realistically was not me saying it out loud, but me tapping out, like. So I had a military career, I failed. College, I failed. Being a mother, I failed. Being a daughter, I failed. Being a wife, I failed. Like I felt like I'd failed at everything in life. What I didn't realize was failure only becomes failure when you stop trying. Yeah. And so because I had done something and I didn't do it perfectly the first time, I thought it wasn't meant for me. I should never try again. And I got to learn that just wasn't true when I met you and Tim Story and all of these people that are talking about setbacks and comebacks and setbacks and comebacks. And I was like, okay, so I can make a mistake and still try this thing over again, you know, try being in recovery over again, because I failed that a billion times, right? And that was the first step. Try being a student again. So I think I was at a year of my recovery when we went back to college, me and Susan. Right. Vince tricked us all back into college. Let's go have lunch, and then takes us on campus, and all of a sudden we go to school again, right? And then after being in recovery again, being a student again, being a mother again, the opportunity came around where my son was wilding out and my mom didn't want to deal with him, and I was in a position where he could come live with me, you know? And
what
so
a whole
right?
change of things, like I says, that your own son now could go live with you.
Yeah, being a daughter again, because now I'm here with my father and he has his own place, and we got that house in Garden Grove where you guys came to, and learning how to work in recovery and how to be a mom and how to be a woman in recovery, and just slowly all of these things that I had failed at, that I was too scared to even try again, just kind of developed. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. And I have a program about myself, so I'm like, all right, what is the next indicated step? Go to school. What is the next indicated step? I was just doing whatever was right in front of me, right? Like scripture says that he's going to be a lamp to my feet, not a spotlight to my future, and I'm going to know all of the steps. I'm just going to know this one.
There you go. Yeah.
And as long as I stay in surrender and take this one step, what unfolds next will unfold next, and that's none of my business.
Wow. I can remember going to visit one of my friends who was on her deathbed, and we went over there, and her daughters just happened to be from Hawaii.
Yeah, the one from Hawaii, the other one with Samoan blood and my same hair, right? And it was
and she was, what's her profession?
She was a forest. She worked in the forest. Yeah.
Yeah, and those
Park
are the
ranger.
little things where, like my son Chill and others, I didn't know that about Sunday.
Yeah.
That's why our backstories are so important, because all the things you've been through, you can talk to the moms.
Yeah.
You can talk to the kids. You know, you can talk to the forest ranger. You can talk to the athlete.
Yeah.
You can talk to the person that takes hostages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You become all things to all people once again, so we can win them over to God's side.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let them know about this Savior that we have, that has saved me before I even knew who he was. that saved me and protected me from so many things, mainly from myself, right? Mainly saved me from myself, because I can get myself into a doozy real quick and not even notice that I'm doing it. I had lived in survival for so long that was actually where I was comfortable. The struggle or the challenge comes with learning how to live, how to get out of survival. And the best way I can explain it with where I'm at today is it says you can't put old wine in new wineskins lest it burst, right? And so I can't take old behaviors and put them in new wines in this new life. If I bring those old behaviors into this new version of me, I'll burst this life. So I have to constantly practice this contrary action. I have to constantly recognize that there's a natural order and there's a polarity system, and that I have to stop putting my hands in it and just look and take the next step, and look and take the next step. And that's all I'm in charge of. This little hula hoop of what is the next step, consequence, action, or action, consequence, action, consequence, action, consequence. And what's going to happen next week, I have no idea. Nor do I want to have an idea, because I'll set myself, what do they call expectations, or premeditated resentments, right? Yeah. So if I have these expectations of anything, I'm going to set myself up for being disappointed. I get disappointed, I get resentful, I get this, I get that, all of this stuff builds up, and I burn my life down.
So here we are, and we're going to close for this session, and then our next episode, we'll talk about what's going on in your life now, because a little teaser part, you're back in school, mm-hmm. and you're graduating with high honors, you've got great career going on, you got so much wonderful stuff going on. You're still young as can be, and you got a whole life and a future ahead of you. I was sharing with somebody this morning in one of the groups I facilitate how when we come together in life, as addicts, we're into instant gratification. Yeah. We know people, you're right, this world is tough. It's hard.
It is.
And very painful. So we want something that's going to bring us some instant gratification, just stop the pain right now. But the opposite of instant gratification is the delayed gratification that we're able to produce when we decide we want to put in some work.
Right. Right. It's more sustainable, right?
Yeah, work is pumping the brakes of, I got to do all that, and I got to
make a choice. It's got to be up to me. I got to make all of that stuff is irrelevant.
All that
really.
Overthinking produces all that anxiety. So we put in the work, and I tell people, just in my life now, I'm 77, and in my life now, most people are thinking about just laying around, retired, or going doing something like that. No, I'm still putting in the work because that brings satisfaction to my life and to anybody who does it. I put in the work. This morning I start off, I get up and I pull a GTA. I'm grateful, thankful, and appreciative. And then I get up, and my first duty of the day is, like I said, I take my grandkids, drive them to school. I do that because I want to drop something good in their ear. Hey, I want to say a little, I love you, it's going to be a good day, something like that. After that, I come over to the gym we have over here, you lift off, and I do a little exercise for a little while to work on myself, and I'm listening to a podcast. And once again, put in work. Yeah. That pumps the brakes.
The routine.
And it's not, it's delayed gratification. Once again, I'm getting some gratification out of that. And then I come and do a group. Boy, I get to pick everybody's brain. I learn from everybody as I'm giving out to everybody. And the day goes on, and then we do what we're doing now, and then we'll do a group right after this, and then do some, all the time putting in work for the Lord. And it builds our Godfidence, it builds our energy, it keeps us focused, and then we can do things like this and help others. This is
and I mean, for much is given, much is required, right? And so I really can just sit. The thing that gets it to be something of priority to me is the fact that no matter what or how long I serve in this world, it'll never be anything able to compare to what's been served to me in this lifetime already. How many chances and how many freedoms and how much I've been given and gifted and loved on and taken care of through all of this stuff. So like, I am able to like honestly sit with myself and say, man, if I get to spend the rest of my life as a servant, this is a great life. Like, it's really the best life I've ever had. And I never knew that I was doing it all backwards, right? Like, I never knew that trying to feed myself or care for myself or take care of me, I, self, me, that ism of my disease, right? I never knew that that was going to just make a darker and darker hole of nothingness. And now that we've got it right and we're not doing everything backwards, I'm able to really see like, man, do you know how cool it is to wake up? Like, side story, right? Do you know how cool it is to wake up in the morning and get a message from someone that said, hey, I know you say that every Sunday, but this time I thought that I would actually reach out and I just wanted to talk. Do you have a few minutes? And to be in a space in life where I can walk outside. And I have no idea who I was talking to. Let's just be transparent, right? I know her name, but I can't put the face to yet.
Right.
But I'm sure she'll come on Sunday and I'll get to love her and hug her. And we shared this moment where we get to bond now. And that's really like unreal. Yeah.
Woo! Hey, well, listen, we could go on and on, but we're going to save that for the next episode. So you're hearing Cindy Casperson over here, and you're hearing the chief, Dr. Phil Aguilar. And go to setfreeanaheim.com if you want to find out more about us. But man, we're going to keep telling stories. We're going to keep interviewing people who have lived the lifestyles of the saved and dangerous.
Yeah.
Much love to all of you until the next episode.
Get down.
You don't wanna see me in the street.
Get down.
Packing word instead of packing heat. I'm a soldier, hey, soldier, hey, soldier. Find me on the battlefield.
Down.
You don't wanna see me in the street.